With the addition of our adventure van, Otis, we are tipping our toes into overlanding, which opens up a huge opportunity to check out campsites that we were never actually able to reach before. Having good communication with your group is key, especially when your overland vehicle is an 8,000-pound 4x4 Sprinter. A couple years ago, we purchased the Rocky Talkie Mountain Radios, which we have used in all of our backpacking and hiking trips. We absolutely love them.
This is hard, only because the trails are not well marked and there's a lot of trees you have to go under or over, and those are my nemesis.
The simplicity and durability of these radios had us reaching out to Rocky Talkie to see if we could review their 5-watt GMRS radios. They did provide us with radios and handsets, but they had no input into our review process or this video. These being handheld radios and not being wired into your vehicle, battery life is crucial. Over 7 days, we tested the battery life of the 5-watt against the mountain radio, but also added an inexpensive GMRS radio, the RadioDitty GM30.
Welcome. Channel mode.
Let's quickly go over what comes in the box. We've got the radio, we've got the tether cord, and of course the charge cable, along with the instruction books. If you want the handset, you're going to have to order that separately, but Greg had a lot of fun, and I did too, using this thing. One thing to note about the manual is actually small, and it's really helpful, so don't just throw it away. Maybe toss it in your glove box so when you're out in the backcountry, you can reference it.
On the top, you've got your power button. You got a little flipper here so you can change channels. You have your transmit button. You have your AB button. This has the ability to monitor 2 separate channels. It's got your volume up and down, and the plus will also change over into the weather scanning mode. If you hold down the volume up, hold down it till it starts scanning.
Coastal marine forecast for the waters from Cape Shorewater, Washington to Cape Falcon, Oregon, and westward 60 nautical miles. Synopsis for the southern Washington and...
So that's pretty cool. These radios also have the ability to use repeaters if that's something you have available to you in your area. At the bottom, you've got your USB-C port for charging. And then right here is a little screw, and this is the headset little cover that comes off. On the back, we've got a metal alligator clip, and this thing is super strong. And on the bottom of the radio, there's a little metal loop, and it comes with a leash that attaches right to that little loop. The mountain radio is only splash proof, where this 5-watt radio is actually IP67. That means it's waterproof down to 1 meter, and it is all sealed, so it's not going to have a lot of dust getting into it. And it's very important when you're out on the trail, and like we were this weekend, everything is completely coated in dust. None of that's going to make it into those valuable electronics.
For the battery test, all radios were charged to 100% and left in their default state, except for 5-watt radio number 2 that was set to monitor emergency weather. Looking at this chart, you can see that the RadioDitties didn't even make it 12 hours. We fully charged them a second time, and they did the exact same thing. This really surprised us, as they nearly have the same size battery as the mountain radio. If battery is even a remote concern of yours, the RadioDitty is not a good option. The mountain radios, which are the ones that we take on our backpacking trips, along with the 5-watt radio that was monitoring for emergency weather, lasted up until day 7, which is really impressive. The other 5-watt radio was still going strong at 45% when we ended the test, which is amazing and actually very surprising. We're here with some friends, and we're going to take our vehicles off to the mountain roads and test out these radios.
We're going to do a quarter mile at a time, and then we'll go until we have 0 communication.
We're at 0.2 miles away, and we're still on the line of sight of the van. This is on the mountain radio.
Yes, can hear you loud and clear.
Radio check on the 5-watt radio.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, radio check on the black radio.
I can hear you loud and clear.
We're now at 0.4 away from the van. We've actually came around a corner, so it'll be interesting if this is actually going to work.
Radio check on the mountain radio. Can you hear me? Over.
I can hear you. It's starting to get a little fuzzy though.
Yeah, so that's getting fuzzy, and it did cut out just once.
Radio check. This is on the 5-watt. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
And a radio check on the black radio. Can you hear me? Over.
I can hear you loud and clear.
We're at 0.6 away from the van. We've come around, maybe 2 corners. we're still getting transmission there, but it's pretty staticky.
5 Watt. Over.
I can hear you. It's starting to get a little bit staticky.
Radio check on the black radio.
I can hear you, but we are starting to get some static.
We're 0.8 away from the van, and here we go. Radio check on the mountain radio. Can you still hear me? Over. Silence. Definitely a couple big turns, and we are absolutely totally lost on the FRS radio. So let's check the GMRS radio.
5 Watt.
Kind of garbled a little bit.
Getting in and out and staticky on that one.
Radio check on the black radio. Can you hear me? Over.
I can hear you, but we're getting quite a bit of static.
Okay. We're at 1.1 miles away from the van, definitely around 3 or 4 big corners.
A person just drove by and pulled over off to the side and said they had to take a leak.
And radio check on the 5 Watt radio. Can you hear me? Over.
I can actually hear you pretty good.
And radio check on the black radio. Can you hear me? Over.
I can hear you. We're getting some static.
All right, we just did our last radio check at 1.5 miles. We're definitely in this ravine pretty far in, and I'm surprised it made it this far, but we have 0 communication, so we're gonna drive back a little bit and see when we pick it back up. We actually picked up service as soon as we came around the corner, so it's definitely not like a distance thing, it's more a terrain thing. So when you're dealing with these radios, terrain's gonna be one of the big factors that kind of goes for the whole range issue. We tested using the radios without the handsets. We're gonna put them on, and in order to put them on, there's actually a screw you have to undo. There we go. Handset side, there's just a little thumb screw. So you can see the connection, there isn't like an open port, they're just touch connectors. We'll just put a little quarter turn. So what did we learn from that? It's gonna take a tool to do it, and it's a little hard to screw in and on, so you're probably not gonna want to take it on and off all the time. But once it's on there, it's on there.
When you put the handheld device on, there is going to be a little cap that was where it wasn't at. So this is definitely a little piece that could be lost. So make sure you put it somewhere safe.
We do have 2 cars behind us, over. I do like how I can hold this one hand and it's not like something big.
How's the cable length?
Well, the radio's up there in that cubby there, and it's plenty long. I like this little handset.
Looks good all the way down to the bridge.
Put it 4-wheel drive's kind of anticlimactic. You just press this little button.
We got a truck incoming.
We drove a few miles up the mountain and we're surrounded by burnt trees, unfortunately, but it's a beautiful day today. I'm gonna give you my impressions of the radios. Obviously, the Rocky Talkie original that we've purchased, we absolutely love this. Take it everywhere we go, especially when we're backpacking. And then on to the new GMRS radio that Rocky Talkie has made. Comparing the two weight-wise, the mountain one is 7.8 ounces. Now the 5 watt is 10.6. They both have leashes. They both also have clips. I find that the mountain one is a little bit easier because it's more like a carabiner. This is actually like reminds me of like a bag clip, but heavier duty. Radio antennas are just about the same size. Overall, I mean, obviously the 5 watts just a little bit bigger.
I like the little mountain radio size when we're out backpacking. The new 5 watt version is, even though it's I think only 3 ounces heavier, it feels significantly heavier. They both come with these stretchy like cords that you can attach to things. I don't think it's quite as important on the 5 watt because potentially you're going to be using it in your vehicle and it actually kind of gets in the way. So I actually take that off. As far as in the overlanding scenario, I think the mountain radio is definitely not going to be the one you're going to want to pick. When we did our test down in the ravine there, this thing dropped out literally halfway, like around the second corner. This thing dropped out. We still had great reception here. I think we got decent reception with the kind of terrain we were in. So if you're going overlanding, definitely veered towards the GMRS. The 5 watt does come with an optional handset, which I actually really like. Being able to sit this up on the dash And I could hold this with one hand, drive with one hand, and then easily go back and forth. And then I could also just toss this in a little cup holder. I really like that. On the back of the handset itself, it does have another alligator clip, and they are very, very strong. Ow, extremely strong actually. Strong enough where it probably is going to mar up whatever you clip it to. As far as feel goes, the handset to me doesn't feel as robust as the radio itself. The radio itself almost feels like it's metal, even though it's not. But the handset itself definitely feels like plastic, although I do like the plus and minus for adjusting the audio or audio volume. One thing I do like about the GMRS radio is the option to scan the weather. And if you don't have like a Garmin device where you're able to pull down the weather, you can actually click on here and actually hit the NOAA weather channels. In our testing, we also tested out the RadioDitty GM30, and it actually performed surprisingly well. I think it was definitely on par with this guy here. When we were testing the Jeep, the Ditty, I'm just going to call it the Ditty because it's got a funny name. The GM30 would actually kind of give some feedback when the Jeep was actually on when you were talking on this. It didn't do that when the Jeep was off, so something to be aware of there.
Well, it's definitely heavier. I would give it that. The range was way better than the Mountain. The clip is very powerful, this belt clip. It would be great on your belt. I would feel comfortable wearing it on my pants and it not falling off or anything.
The 5 watt it's more simple. It doesn't have all these buttons on the front that, you know, for some people might be a little confusing on how to operate it when you only have a couple buttons. It tends to be easier to operate. And the build quality is way better on the 5 watt than the less expensive option.
After using the radio for 3 hours, and this one we checked the weather with, it is at 95%. The other one is actually still at 100%. If you're looking for a dependable radio that you're going to turn on at the start of your adventure and you don't want to have to worry about it, especially with the excellent battery, check out the 5 watt Rocky Talkie. Go check out this video next. You can find us at exploretrekadventure.com, and we'll see you next time.